be coming up live here now. Just want to, we're getting ready just on the pre-show here. We're going to get started in about 1 minute right at the top of the hour. And we'll do some introductions and talk about our topic. I hope everybody's doing well out there. Again, just another very interesting week of live streams that we've seen. I had Easter service. I watched Easter service on Facebook Live, and I'm sure a lot of people did out there this week. And the night before, I was watching another nice concert on Saturday night, watching Facebook Live concerts. Interesting times. Well, I think we're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I want to say my name is Jeff Kellick. I'm our Chief Product Officer at LENSEC. We've been doing these live streams now for a number of weeks. I believe this is our 5th one. And we've had different guests come on, different team members come on, talk about some scenarios that we've had. We've done some demonstrations. We've pulled some questions and answers that we've had from the audience, talking about various items. Today, we really want to focus on the education market and how that's been impacted with the change in the societal change or the way we've gone about addressing the coronavirus COVID-19 over the past month or so. With me today, we have a couple of guests, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves. So, Michael, why don't you go ahead first and give an introduction for those who don't know you yet?
Thank you, Jeff. My name is Michael Trask. I'm the Director of Sales for North America with LENSEC, and been with LENSEC now for coming up on 2.5 years.
And Bob?
Hi, I'm Bob Brown. I'm the Midwest Regional Manager, and looking forward to my 2nd time of doing this. So I appreciate you having me back. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been a pretty neat way for us to talk to some of our partners out there, some of our customers, some of our end users. And that's really, again, where we're going to gear towards today. It's more specific to the education space and some of the lessons that we've learned, some of the things that we picked up, not only during this brief time that we've been in this environment, but other ways in which remote surveillance or remote monitoring has helped our end users accomplish what they need to accomplish. And really, regardless of the situation that we have now, there are still things that need to be accomplished from a security, surveillance, and safety perspective. And that's really something that we feel our VMS, Perspective VMS, can lend itself to. Perspective is a browser-based application, so the client itself resides on a browser, meaning that you can access it from any workstation that you have. You don't have to be at your workstation, your PC and your security operations center, for example. You can be on your laptop at home. You can be on your iPad at home. You can be on your phone and still be able to access the cameras, still be able to access the archives or recordings, and even be able to access the administration. And that's one of the things we'll get into as well for our integration partners. Those team members that are still viewed as essential personnel that are out there installing applications at school districts or at other various facilities. Because Perspective VMS is a browser-based application, and because the entire application, not just the camera viewer, but the entire application is browser-based, you can actually do that administrative work, that installation, that configuration remotely. And that not only saves time, in some circumstances, it provides an added level of safety too for the installer as well as for the customer by being able to do it at a distance. So I know that you guys have some scenarios, and so let's just keep with the casual nature of the conversations that we've been having. And I'm going to toss it over to you, Michael, and some things that you've heard from the education market that have really been, that Perspective VMS has been able to help some of our customers with.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. One of our university customers, they've, like most colleges and universities now, have stopped classes for the semester, and some have stopped or not going to be holding any on-campus classes during their summer sessions as well. So, but they still have vast areas that they need to secure and cover. So just in some conversations with one of our customers, they're taking full advantage of the remote, ability with Perspective VMS. They have their this university slash college has a college police force that the security and the video surveillance access control programs all fall under them. So their staff are working remotely from their computers in home offices, and they are monitoring all of the facilities, making and also looking to make sure that that people are adhering to the policies that have been put, that they don't want people on campus, even though there's public areas. They're really trying to track people down, making sure people aren't on campus. Certain camera manufacturers we have integrations with too that allow for two-way audio, so they're able to remotely be able to speak down through those cameras to maybe ask people to disperse or leave campus or whatever. So there's lots of things that they're able to do, but the most important part is they don't have to be coming onto the university, sitting in their operations center side by side with everybody. They can still be performing their day-to-day tasks right now, just in a remote environment.
Yeah, that's right. That's and I'm glad you brought up the audio thing too, because I think we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, and somebody was asking, not aware that's capable. And so it is a way that you can communicate through those devices. A lot of camera manufacturers now allow that bi-directional audio. And if you're fortunate enough to be in a situation that you've installed either an external speaker or you've tied it in with your system, you don't have to have anything special installed onto your laptop or machine. Again, that's one of the beauties of HTML5, is that it's plug-in less. So even if you believe, well, I used to be able to do this from my security operations center, can I do it from where I'm working remotely? The answer is yes. So within your browser, you can still access the microphone capability, and you're able to talk directly into your laptop, and that's able to then come out on the speaker of that camera and provide that message, that question. Maybe you're asking, is there something I can help you with? We're closed down as a campus right now. This is safety and security issue. We would like you to leave the facility. And you can do that directly from the browser.
Jeff, if I might add, to your point about the browser solution, and really we facilitate high usage. In fact, we don't limit the number of users that can have access to our software. And I think in this day and age, that is really attractive to some of these, particularly the specialized nature of some of our users. You have people that all they want to see is a certain part of the school, for example, or you have the administrative side that wants to see the entire estate or be able to get to different multiple buildings or schools. So I think, the fact that we give them unlimited users is a great economic advantage to them, because we encourage usage and being able to leverage all the tools and assets that they have associated with the system.
Yeah, Bob, I'm going to add something to it. It's a great point, but we've talked about, if anyone is kind of listening to us today that has seen some of our previous LENSEC live sessions, we've also talked about the ease of assigning permissions. With having multiple users, or maybe having users that, in Bob's example, may just have permissions to look at a certain set of cameras, either in a building or at a particular campus. And now, because it's remote, including the full administration of the software remotely, that you could go in from a home office or anywhere else that you're working from and go into that administration. And now, in this case, maybe I want to grant Bob permissions to now see additional cameras. And that can be done very easily through the system. It doesn't require anyone, once again, to go on site to a server to administer the site. The administration of the software can completely be done remotely as well.
Yeah, those are great points. It's funny, we kind of talk about some of the stories that we have and some of the ways that the software's helped people. One of the things I didn't anticipate as we developed this software was the was the ability for people to use it not just for security and surveillance, but to use it for operational purposes. And one of the ones that we mentioned on one of the previous sessions was the ability to lock and unlock doors remotely using an access control integration. And that certainly has helped. I did it again today. We had in our Texas office, in our Houston office, we had somebody come to the front door, and I was able to let them in. It was a UPS delivery personnel, and I let them in to be able to deliver a package. And again, all of that was done remotely. Nobody needed to be in the office. I was able to unlock the door and then securely lock it again. And a lot of these school facilities have the exact same type of condition where they will have to allow certain people on site through a controlled access provision. And now not only can you do that remotely, but you can do it with video verification and watch them enter. In this case, they left the package, then they left, and I was able to resecure the door. Another interesting operational use case, and this is one that certainly I didn't anticipate, was using the video surveillance tool as a method for instruction, for teaching. And I'll briefly share my screen. I really wasn't intending on sharing my screen here, but I just want to bring this up because the conversation lent itself to this. We had a college, and here I'm sharing my screen. This is obviously my office here. I'm kind of talking to the computer here this way. And they were teaching, and they used this function here called a real-time extraction. And what they ended up doing is they ended up teaching right here on the fly. They were able to use their Blackboard. They were able to use other information directly and record those segments of video. And so that recorded segment of video, then they could supply to their students. And it was a great way to leverage an existing asset that they already had, a surveillance camera that they already had, and a tool set they already had, and now be able to teach. And I think about that today in a lot of these environments. My wife is an educator, for example, and they're doing a lot of kind of remote work to help their students. And if a teacher needs to employ things like the Blackboard, or they need to employ visual tools, they could actually use their security surveillance tools to be able to be a distributor of that information. And using the real-time extraction tool, and I say real-time extraction because that's what they use there, and that's a kind of a technical term for our software. But in reality, depending on how they have it configured, and as Michael mentioned, you can configure remotely, they don't even have to be there to click a button. They can go ahead and give their lesson, go back and ask the administrator, hey, can you pull that extraction for me? Can you pull that video from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. that I did so that I can supply it to my students? And, Perspective is a security surveillance solution for sure, but there are other applications that you can take advantage of by its nature and what it does. So just a neat aside, that was a college. They actually did it in their psych department is where they were doing those classes for.
Yeah, Jeff, speaking of doing real-time extractions, it also reminds me of the remote nature. And I believe we touched base on this on one of our previous sessions, but wanted to circle back because I think it's pertinent for what we're discussing right now. And that is the ability to, when you're working remotely and someone's not going on site and you want to maybe, you've been monitoring the campus and maybe there is something that you want to save and make sure it doesn't get written over in the recordings, right? Because right now you might be set up for a retention of 30 days or 45 days or whatever your retention goal is. But if you're working remotely and you're not able to add additional storage or do certain things, you can either do a real-time extraction, or more importantly, in this case, if you realize, hey, you're on day 29 or you're on day 30, and that's how long ago something happened in this 30 days that you've been out, you may have forgot, I need to go back and look at that. The archive lock feature, being able to go back and lock archives so that, in a time-sensitive scenario where maybe that's about to be written over and you need more, you maybe have forgotten about it in the whole, non-normal scenarios that we're working in right now. But by, going into the administration and going into the camera lock within the camera feature that you can go in and pick those cameras, pick the date and time, and lock that video, and it's going to keep that video from being written over. So it's going to allow you to go back and further investigate or interrogate that video for the information that you need, maybe to then save and extract at in smaller bits and pieces for the investigation.
Yeah, that's such a useful feature. We've had it come up several times. We demonstrated a little bit on our demo a couple of weeks ago, and I just demonstrated here. But that, to your point, Michael, that's exactly right. I mean, people left their offices and their facilities not knowing how long this was going to take. I mean, we heard 15 days to make a change or 2 weeks, and now we're going on week 4, week 5 in some cases. And you may have been doing an investigation and figured, oh, well, I'll get to that because that just happened yesterday. And now all of a sudden, yesterday is 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, and you've got to get that information. You can go ahead and quickly lock that archive and it will not overwrite. And so it'll delete other things, but it will not delete that particular lock where you're at. And so I just did it in 30 seconds, less than that, I think, to do that. So you can go ahead and make that save and then plan out your investigation and figure, okay, now I can go back and I can take my time doing this investigation, finding the right information because I protected that video from being deleted.
Yeah, Jeff, just as a reminder, that does lock that video out of your normal retention. So if your retention's 30 days and you pick all cameras on campus and lock them for 1 day, your retention's now only 29, but that also touches on another, the flexibility and the ease of which you can then go in and administer and add additional locations within your network for additional storage. So I don't know if you wanted to touch base on that quickly. If you did, let's say, you locked up 3 or 4 days worth of video. So now your retention at campus is only 26. You may have a state ordinance or a bylaw within the school that you always have to have 30 days of storage. So if that was the case, how would I solve that problem remotely, Jeff?
Yeah, that truly does happen. And in this scenario, the one we just did for this emergency lock, that used up, and I can see immediately, it used up 34 gig of data retention. And so if I don't have that extra data retention available in the system the way it's configured, again, remotely. By the way, I'm logged into our Houston demonstration. I'm here in Pittsburgh, so this is truly a remote example. I can go into the stores themselves and I can add an additional location. And just adding a location that's on the network that's accessible, now I can compensate for that 34 gig or 2 terabytes or 5 terabytes, whatever that amount of storage is that you utilized for the archive lock, you know that exact amount. And so long as you add that space back into your retention pool, or what we call our store, if you add that back into the store, you won't end up losing any of your retention days because now you've compensated for that and you brought additional storage back in. So with those two things, doing that archive lock and then adding additional space from the network into your store location, you've essentially added that time period into that flexibility for your archives. And both of those things can be done remotely that you have there. I know, Bob, you had an example that you were talking about remote installation too. And that I know you were talking about certain schools that were looking to maybe make some decisions about adding some feature sets. And you wanted to mention about the kind of the ease of use on the installation side of it.
Yeah, it is extremely easy and intuitive as to how to add and delete things and administer to the system. First of all, as you pointed out, you don't need a separate piece of software to do that. You access the system's administrative tools directly through the standard interface that you have. So unlike a lot of other solutions or older style technologies where you might have to have a utility that you have to open up and work with to modify or address a system, that's not necessary with our system. It's right at your fingertips. All you need is permission to access it, which is the way you protect yourself. So that those that aren't authorized to make additions can't. But it was very simple to access. You can do it from anywhere that you can open a browser, assuming you have the permission set. And, I think this is so valuable in this day and age where you get a situation like we're in right now. And, you have somebody that all of a sudden is feeling for insurance purposes that they need to have an expanded period of time, that they need to be retaining their archived video. And a lot of these buildings are dark now all day long. And so what used to be, standard recording practices to record between 6:30 a.m. and 6:30 or 7 at night can now go to a different type of a recording where we only activate recording based on motion. And not only do we do that with motion, we can accelerate the quality of that recording. So we use a very low frame rate. Maybe we just record, a couple of frames every minute, but then when an event or motion comes into that field, we can accelerate that to 25 or 30 frames a second. And now we've got a very high quality example of what's going on. And frame rates can become very important too in diminished light conditions like a dark hallway. So, these are all things that I can do that sitting right here today from the benefit of my living room or family room. I don't need to be going to the school and trying to tackle that modification. So.
Yeah, and something else too, Bob, you mentioned this on a previous conversation we had earlier today, but in the remote world we're talking about, and the way we're talking a lot about how the ease of use with our software, but this is a software, and there's a lot of the power of perspective. That's a tagline for our Perspective VMS solution. So if someone in the education field or any prospective end user who may be listening to these live sessions, it is very easy to deploy our system because we use a lot of the, in most cases, we can use the existing infrastructure that's there. So that includes cameras, that includes the server that might be running your existing software, and we can do that remotely. We would be able to go in, as long as you have remote access to that that server, we could go in, we could, with our channel partners and our support team helping them as well, but they can get in, they can install the software, they can configure and start bringing those feeds right into our software and get you, we have remote training, virtual training that can be instructor led. We also have a LENSEC online training academy. We can do one-on-one training with team members to get you up and running. So there's a lot of things that we can do in this remote environment, even if you're thinking, hey, my system's not working the way I want it to right now. The software isn't doing what our requirements are. We can even look at, installing a pilot or even installing putting the real life system in with no one having to go on site. And then if you decide down the road that you need to change out cameras, add new cameras because you don't have coverage where you want it, well, that can all be addressed down the road when, we'll get back to some normal sense of operation and people are allowed back on the facility grounds and people are allowed to start doing work again. Because even though security professionals are considered essential at this time, there still are individual school districts and universities that just don't want those people on campus right now. But if when they are allowed to return, that's when you can add the additional cameras and stuff, but we can still take advantage of what you have. And so therefore, if you don't have a big budget, you have a small budget, there's still the ability to be able to upgrade to a software and some of the things that we're showing you for a very, small budget or a very budget-friendly cost.
Yeah, that's right, and that speaks to we have a lot of campus law enforcement that we work with and we talk with. We're a member of the International Association of Campus Law Enforcement, IACLEA, and we watch and we listen to a lot of the discussions that are going on about challenges that they're facing. And one of the things that they're facing right now, having to work remotely, of course, monitoring their systems like we've talked about, but still preparing and planning for the advancements and enhancements they were already looking at before this whole thing happened. And so now is a great time to do a lot of research, a lot of study. Of course, we have our online training academy that's open to everybody. And whether you're a customer or not, you're more than welcome to register and come in and see our product through the online training academy, lensec.com/training. There's a plug. But another one, as Michael said, is doing a pilot. And with existing infrastructure, with IP technology now, if you have IP cameras and you have a network PC or server, it doesn't even have to be a server, it can be a PC. We can install remotely. Our partners can install remotely, operate remotely, give you a feel for the software in your own environment. So pilots, and that's all without having to go on site. Again, there's certain campuses that have full restrictions, don't allow anybody on site. That doesn't mean that you have to stop preparing and planning as a security director, as a chief of police, as an investigations consultant. You can do these things remotely. And that's one of the main messages that we talk a lot with our colleagues about in the industry, about ways that we can still continue on, continue to work, continue to evolve the plans that we had before the shutdown, and ways that we can be ready, prepared when everybody goes back to work, we can hit the ground running. And that's a great way. Those pilots are a great way to do that.
Yeah, Jeff, and just because people are working remotely doesn't mean that, hey, this is budget season for a lot of school districts, right? Their teachers are now having to teach remotely in a lot of school districts, probably all school districts around the country. But that doesn't mean that they stopped preparing or everything that relates to the 2020/2021 school year. Doesn't mean that all of that meetings and budget meetings, all that, none of that stuff has stopped. They're just now having to do those types of things through the technology that we're using here today, Zoom or GoToMeeting or any of those types of Microsoft Teams or whatever they may use. They still need to hold those meetings. We would still like to be able to, have those conversations, set up pilots, show you the system, so you can factor in if this is something that would make sense in your upcoming school year budget.
That's right. That's right. Bob, you were talking earlier too of one of the things that a lot of school districts, in particular, I guess, more K-12 than college university, but college university certainly too, because they have vehicles and things that they need to monitor. And it also, we know it carries over to the private sector too. But in the vein of schools, you were talking about the fleet solution. And I know it's going to be a preview for an upcoming session, but if you wanted to mention that a little bit for the folks listening.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. What really we're excited about is what we've taken historically for education has been a school bus solution that is disparate from the main school's video or security system. In other words, you've got an autonomous system operating on the school bus, and you've got an autonomous system running then in the facilities. And what we've done is we've endeavored now to bring that school bus as an extension of the entire estate of physical security and bring it in as though it was a onboard camera, so that when that bus pulls back into the depot, we automatically grab its video, we bring it in, we match it up in archiving to the same timelines that we had with the remainder of the cameras that are in the enterprise or the estate. And so we've got a completely synchronized solution as to everything. If you think about it, it gives us in the school the ability to basically take a student from the minute they get on the bus. So we see them get on the bus, we see them riding on the bus, we see them get off the bus, the school's cameras pick them up walking into the school. We have them in various capacities during the day in the school, the lunchroom, the hallways, etc. We see them come out of the school. We see them get on the bus. Then we have a video again of them on the bus, and we see them getting off at their bus stop home. Complete loop, all under one pane of glass. This is novel, really, in the industry. Everybody previously has been saying, well, you need a system to do that. You need a system to do this. And then you'll have to manually go get this, and you'll manually have to go get that. Right now at your fingertips, if somebody says my kid's missing, we can get right in and we can follow that kid right from the minute he got on the bus till the minute he was supposed to get off of the bus and see what happened. So
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'll just show a quick preview of that right now. This is within inside of Perspective VMS here. It is a fleet solution tab. And not only do we have that, but you actually have GIS referencing as well as to where that bus is at the time, that vehicle. It doesn't have to be a bus, but again, in the education space, as we talk about it, being able to look at the vehicle, being able to go in and bring that video up. This happens to be a 360 camera, can kind of bring it up and look at it to really focus on that vehicle. And Bob, I think your point was well taken, from when they come onto that vehicle to when they get to the school that's in the same environment, in the same system. So, we talk a lot about safety in this day and age, but it's really about, the normal types of things that you look on. Students tend to scuffle, or they, maybe they, small vandalism or things like that happen in the bus, and you want to be able to protect that property. You want to be able to protect the other students, and so a fleet solution allows you to do that within the same context of the system that you're familiar in operating. So your investigations, your reporting, all of that's within the same type of solution, the exact same solution, not even same type, the exact same solution, the exact same browser, the exact same environment. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth. I'm really excited. We mentioned this morning on a pre-call that we were going to get some of our engineers that talk about the actual installation of the hardware, what that's like. So that's definitely a good session upcoming in the next couple of weeks. Some of our engineering folks will talk about that.
Jeff, one thing I wanted just to mention too, to expand on the previous conversation about expanded user opportunities. I think we've found an increased interest in a form of a license that we call Command. And what that really gives an option to now is for our partners or our resellers to go out to their accounts and contact the local police departments or fire departments or first responders and be able to give them an opportunity to have a very affordable, we make it almost a ridiculously low investment by the police department or the fire department to be able to have access to that school's cameras. And there's a few technical issues associated with that. We do need certain criteria at the camera level itself to be present, but pretty much in this day and age that addresses the vast majority of the cameras that are out there and installed in public education. And it's a great way, particularly to get in this type of an environment now where maybe that wasn't available to the police department previously, and now there's a perimeter intrusion alarm on the school. Somebody threw a rock or a brick through the glass. Police department can very quickly now get on, and they can see what's going on, why they're en route, and so they've got that advanced information as to what might be going on. Hopefully it's not a large scale operation trying to penetrate a building and cause big damage. Maybe it's an arsonist, who knows in this day and age, but it gives them that advantage of being able en route to see what's going on. So therefore we reduce risk and we create a high level of situational awareness.
Great points. Great points. I think we're going to get close to the end of our time here. Michael, is there anything that you wanted to mention before we wrap up for today?
No, I think we've covered some additional topics in depth about how in this remote world that we currently are all residing in, how the system can be used in some ways that people may not have thought about. But I do want to just reiterate back. I am the director of sales, so I need to let people know that once again, our software, we can more than happy to set up pilots for people. This can be done in a remote fashion. Someone does not have to be on site. So as long as you have outside access to that existing infrastructure, we'd be more than happy to work with the integration partner in your area to get that set up and to give you an idea and take a look at what the system may be like using your existing cameras that are already there. Because once again, we should be able to use, in most cases, be able to use that existing infrastructure. So those existing cameras that you've already invested money on, the server that maybe, or the internal network equipment that you've already invested money on. In a lot of cases, none of that stuff needs to be refreshed at this time. It may need to be refreshed down the road, but that it's not a limit. It doesn't need to be done in order for us to start showing you our solution within your current environment.
Yep, that's exactly right. Exactly right. Well, I think we've reached the good half hour mark here. I want to give appreciation to all the folks that have been giving us comments and giving us feedback, watching not only live here, but also on the recordings. It is available, obviously, on our Facebook feed. If you scroll down, you can see the past recordings on our YouTube page, youtube.com/LENSEC, as well as on lensec.com/live. And we're revamping that page a little bit. We're going to have some links to the previous videos. Right now, we have it playing in a loop when we're not actually live. So you can see reruns. There you go. You can see reruns of these recordings. So thank you again, everybody. My thanks and appreciation to Bob Brown, to Michael Trask, and for both of them, I'm Jeff Kellick, and we have a happy and safe week, and we'll see you next week.